So we have one small portion for SD-WAN. I kept it at the end because that would help me uh, uh, in my next SD-WAN dedicated batch. Okay, I'm planning to get a SD-WAN batch. So I was all busy with preparing these materials, the lab setup, the license required for this. Okay, so by Feb end and March end, we have a plan of plans to get the SD-WAN dedicated batch. Okay, so those guys want to see the syllabus, you guys can go on to the SD-WAN 300415. It's in the short form, we call it as SD-WAN 300 as well. Okay, SD-WAN 300, and the exam code is 300415. And what are the exam topics? So these are the exam topics. Okay, different theoretical topics and different labs, etc., etc. So right now you need not to worry about this. In your CCNP and core, the topics are very limited. Okay, it's good, you know what would be the upcoming topics. So right now they are talking about some working principles of SD-WAN solution, the data and control plane elements, and some bad features about the traditional WAN and why we are moving towards the SD-WAN solution. Okay, so these are some topics that's been added as of now. And from my experience, I have seen that during the certification, I have seen the questions asked are optional questions. So they give some controller name and they just ask you whether this belongs to a management plane, control plane, or some sorts of that. Okay, there is no lab, at least for the CCNP and core point of view, because the whole chapter is 15%. In that 15% you have only subtopics, so like 7 subtopics. So they have to equally divide the question, so you can expect 2 to 3 question here, might be 2 3 from here, so another 2 3 questions from here. So as of now we are good, we are safe in core paper. Okay, but yes, when we go to SD-WAN, there could be some labs and there could be some high end questions asked in the SD-WAN specialist track. Okay, okay, not an issue. I will provide you the notes for SD-WAN from CCNP. Okay, so this is my notes which I have prepared for SD-WAN. Okay, because SD-WAN, when we are not discussing from the lab point of view, the only left over there is theory. Only theory, theory, theory. There is nothing much in SD-WAN. Okay, so the thing in SD-WAN is you go with the theory, but at the time of doing a lab, you will feel something different. So both are like two different things here. The reason is, in SD-WAN, when we start deploying something in the lab, your practical knowledge helps you. Okay, whereas in theory, it's about all the other benefits that SD-WAN gives us, which we cannot replicate in the lab. Okay, some things we can replicate, but everything is not possible. So in the case of a lab for SD-WAN, we focus on the deployment, pushing up the policies, pushing up the templates, doing some sorts of testing, license upgradation, or license or onboarding. Okay, but in the case of theory, we learn different aspects in the case of SD-WAN. Okay, anyway, I'll start the presentation. So SD-WAN, as we all know, software defined WAN. Okay, one second. Okay, so SD-WAN, software defined WAN, wide area network. Okay, now you need to remember there are three flavors in SDN technology. SDN, software defined network. The first one is focused on the data centers, DC. The second one is focused on the campus, which is called as SD access, campus and branch LAN setups. Okay. And the third one is focused on the WAN topology, or the WAN networks. Okay. Like your MPLS, DMVPN, 4G, LT, those things. So over here in this technology, ACI for data center, we need a controller. Controller is your centralized thing which is gonna control everything. Okay, it's called as controller, and over here we deploy DNAC as a controller. Okay, what about in the case of SD access? We deploy oh sorry So in the case of ACI, we deploy APIC controller. In the case of SD access, we deploy DNAC controller. And in the case of SD WAN, we deploy vManage. Okay. So three different SDN technology, three different controllers. This is a confusing part. Okay. But Cisco is trying to combine them. Let's say a customer has all the three technology with them. Why should they have three different controllers? Why don't they have something in a common, right? So the Cisco has something called as Cisco DNA software or DNA center. Okay. Now what Cisco is planning for is to make this as a centralized for all the three technology, but this is uh, kind of ongoing or upcoming feature which I can say. There is no much news about this, but there will be one fine day when we can see all the three controllers are being moved and merged to a single one. Okay, a customer who needs all the three, they can have one standard controller, and from that controller they can control all the three technologies. Because if a and let's say a customer, he might be having his own data center, he might have his own LAN segments, he can have a WAN itself, right? So WAN. So basically, he need a solution from Cisco which can have a minimized option. Not that for everything they have their own controller, and then they need a different graphical interface to manage each one of them. Okay. So that was a quick definition for SDN. We are not focusing on APIC, neither on SD access. Yes, SD access, we had a small part. What I meant is we are not focusing in today's class. Okay. So we had SD access. I have covered this in very beginning of this batch. SD access, where we covered VXLAN, Lisp. So Lisp and VXLAN are the protocol which is used in the SD access uh, technology. Okay. Over here we use a different protocol like OMP, overlay management protocol. We make use of IPsec for security purpose. We have DTLS tunnel. Okay. So those are the new concepts and new protocol that we discuss in SD-WAN. Okay. Now uh, important thing, overlay, underlay. So what do you basically understand by overlay and underlay? Okay. So let's say if you check this particular network topology, we have the LAN part. Okay. And we also have a WAN part, and this is again a LAN part. Now underlay is your internet or your WAN circuit, could be anything. Might be you have a 4G network or you have a LTE network. So it could be anything. They are called as a underlay. Okay. Internet or the WAN in the sense MPLS, 4G, LTE, they are underlay. Okay. On the top of these underlay, we have to run the overlay technology, and here in my scenario, SD-WAN is a overlay technology. Okay, that means I'm not gonna cut down these expenses. I cannot cut down these expenses. These are required for me. But on the top of these technology, I'm adding a service called as SD-WAN. So a lot of people have a misconception that SD-WAN is to destroy MPLS. No, it's not that way. Okay, you still need the underway technology. You still need a communication between two different sites. Otherwise, how site 1 can communicate to site 2 if you do not have internet or MPLS or 4G or LTE, right? That's not possible. You still need this communication, but you're trying to enhance the communication now using SD-WAN as a service. Okay, I can call SD-WAN as a technology, or I can call SD-WAN as a service. Okay, they themselves is not a end-to-end communication what do you say, bandwidth or something like that. Okay, so SD-WAN is a service or a technology which we deploy on an existing transport channel like internet, MPLS, 4G, all those things. Okay, but why do we do this? I mean, what was the necessity to get SD-WAN, okay, on the top of these existing networks like MPLS or internet? The reason is, when we have site 1 and when we have site 2, and let's say they are connected either on MPLS, we have a backup link which could be internet. Okay, to protect internet, we make use of these DMVPN tunnels or the IPsec tunnels. Okay, we can also have the 4G, because some branch to branch they don't make use of very heavy uh, WAN circuit. They can go with 4G or they can go with LT, a cheap internet for connectivity. The issue with this traditional WAN are insufficient bandwidth. If your primary links goes down, what happens? Your secondary links comes up. There could be bandwidth issue now. If the secondary link, which is not able to accumulate the traffic, basically it's gonna be dropping the packets. That's one reason, or that's one common challenge in a traditional WAN. Limited app awareness. That means, how do you give more priority to applications? Based on the application, you give more priority on the communication. Let's say I have multiple application. I have Outlook, I have some LDAP server, okay, some authentication servers, I have some AAA server, and there is need for these user to reach out to these servers every time for the authentication purpose, or might be Outlook SMTP server, right? How do you give more priority for your Outlook traffic? You need some way where you can say my Outlook is my top notch priority, and I want this to have a very good and a stable network, right? That's a challenge in a traditional WAN, but in a SD-WAN we will see how does this helps us. Okay, so in a SD-WAN we have a concept of AAR, application awareness routing. Depending upon the application, you can set some parameters. You can say my application Outlook must always have so and so feature. It shouldn't have a latency of 10 milliseconds. Okay, when we ping something, we get some latency information. So how much time it took for the packet to go to the destination and come back, RTT, right? So there's those components contribute for latency. How is your slowness? Is it your network having a very high slowness in your enterprise? Okay, so latency, jitter, loss, and bandwidth, these are some traffic classification, right? Even in the QoS we had discussed this. So depending upon this, we can set a parameter, and I can say my Outlook application should always be having a better quality of traffic, right? So if we see something happening here on MPLS, my Outlook now should immediately go towards internet without any engineer's intervention in any sorts of manual command or something. It will be done automatically, which a traditional WAN doesn't able to do that. Okay. Security challenge, yes, if someone deploys a ROG device in your network, or someone is trying to uh, impose DDoS attack. So that's all the security challenge. Whereas in SD-WAN, they make use of a different security. They make use of the DTLS tunnels, okay, DTLS or TLS tunnel. They have IPsec security with GRE as a alternative way, okay. They make use of certificates. All the controllers, they get themselves authenticated using certificates, okay. There is a process called as ZTP and PNP, the initial authentication. So what Cisco does is, whenever Cisco imports these end routers, they make a note of every details, like the serial number of that router, and the site ID. All those things will be recorded, okay, and that information will be put up in the customer who has purchased SD-WAN. So only those router can get authenticated, others will not be able to authenticate it. So there are a lot of security that you can impose in the SD-WAN. Traditional WAN, yes, high cost. MPLS, you know, it's costly. Let's say you are keeping a low bandwidth of a backup link, just 2 Mbps, and when MPLS goes down, the secondary line is not able to handle the traffic, okay. So that's all the cost challenge as well. Whereas in SD-WAN, as I told you, you can give the bandwidth. Let's say you can give 60% of traffic bandwidth importance to MPLS. You can say you have different network with you, you have internet, you have 4G, you have LTE. Now you can accordingly give some dedicated work to this. 4G for LDAP only, LT for Outlook only. Now everything gets equally distributed. You can also make use of a small end circuits, but in a traditional, you first prefer MPLS, then you go to internet, then something goes down, you can point it to 4G. But let's say you done a very good routing. You said that Outlook will always take in 4G. But what if 4G had some issues, right? So you cannot do such routing as well. So that is why I said in the SD-WAN we can impose the qualities. I can say that I need to achieve these qualities. Make use of anything. Go via MPLS, go via internet, go via 4G. I don't care, but I need this feature, these qualities in my traffic for Outlook application. So that is why I say this is very high cost. Okay, in our traditional enterprise, we will see a primary link and it secondary link, and we do the smart routing. If something goes down, automatically switch over to the secondary, or we can do another set of routing that we can say all the data traffic go via first link, all the voice traffic go via secondary link. But there is no smart routing now here. We cannot put some uh, feature restriction. If voice is set to go via secondary link, I cannot tune that now, which we can do in SD-WAN. We can say that if voice, which is set to take the secondary link, but for some reason the secondary link is choked up, I don't want the traffic to be impacted. This is my quality. Go via whichever transport is available. Go via 4G, go via LT, go via MPLS. I don't care, but I need this is my topmost application, and it should be reliable every time. Okay, so this is high end, whereas we can achieve a good distribution among these other WAN circuits in the case of SD-WAN. Yes, as I told you, no cloud app readiness. Okay, that means over on the cloud, let's say AWS or Azure, you can also deploy your SD-WAN. That's a main thing. Okay, now what SD-WAN or the Cisco SD-WAN has done is they basically started giving SD-WAN as a package also. If you go and approach AWS, you can go and buy the AWS. I mean, you can buy the package from AWS for Cisco's SD-WAN. Okay, now it's like a package. You pay, you get the SD-WAN service. You don't have any engineer, it's fine. SD-WAN, the whole thing will be taken up by the Amazon guys, the AWS guy. Service is from Cisco, package is sold by SD-WAN. Cisco also has their own package. Okay, Cisco themselves has some package set depending upon the bandwidth, depending upon the license, depending upon how many VH you are targeting for the ZTP and PNP authentication. So depending upon that, Cisco has the packages for SD-WAN. But let's say you are a premium partner with AWS or Azure, so you will first prefer your own partners, and those partners have started selling the package for SD-WAN. Okay, and complex operation in the sense troubleshooting. If something goes down, you will manually trace the device. You have to log into the device, see if the BGP is down. You have to raise a ticket with the vendor, and so on. That is the challenge, main challenge. Okay, but in the case of SD-WAN, it's a single plane of glass. That means you are provided with one graphical dashboard and everything is within that graphical dashboard. You don't even have to go to CLI. You don't have to go to your inventory management file and look for the router, because your graphical manager is gonna show which site is down, which box is down, which circuit is down, everything on a single plane of glass. Okay, so whatever I have written here, that was a challenge faced by traditional WAN. So now you would be having some fair idea. The challenge for traditional WAN is a beneficial thing for SD-WAN. But apart from these challenge acting as a benefit for SD-WAN, there are few more benefit which I will talk under SD-WAN's benefit topic. Okay, so let's say if I come here where I say the need for software defined, reduce deployment timer. Okay, that's the first benefit. What do you understand by reduce deployment timer? I told you the concept of ZTP PNP. Okay, so these are like your one click deployment or one click authentication process. Okay, what happens is when a customer make a purchase for the SD-WAN package, the backend team, let's say if they bought it from Cisco, the backend team of Cisco, the sales team or the technical team who handles SD-WAN, they will ship the devices. They are gonna ship all the routers to the customer premises. But before they ship, they're gonna keep the records of the chassis serial number. And this chassis serial number will be put up in this online portal. Okay, and this portal will be created for customer. So let's say I have a ZTP account or PNP account for a customer XYZ. Now when customer is deploying, he will do a online authentication. Okay, his routers will make a authentication connection with respective to ZTP and PNP. Okay, and get authenticated themselves. As soon as they get authenticated themselves, they will now start talking to the controllers. Uh, Controller is only interested to talk to those router which are successfully authenticated in the step number 1. If a router is not authenticated themselves, then controller will not even talk to them. That is why I say reduce the deployment time and the security concerns. So don't think that you can introduce a ROG device and you are trying to get all the information for the controller. Controller will not talk to this ROG device because your ROG device has not done the first step of basic authentication. So once that's done, it will talk to controller. controller will start pushing the templates. Okay, now these templates are nothing but, you can say, your OSPF template, you can have your NAT template, you can have some NTP templates, all the features, they get automatically deployed. That's why reduced deployment timer. In a traditional method, what do you do? If you have 100 of devices for your 10 to 20 sites, you basically go and do configuration, you copy paste, or you do planning, designing, implementation step, interface configuration, OSPF, BGP, redistribution, right? Now we don't have to do that. We create templates. Once the router have done their own authentication checks, now the time is to get them configured. We push the, I don't say we, the controller will automatically push the template, and all the routers will have a standard configuration as per the requirement, and they are deployed. Single pane of glass management and visibility. This is called as GUI, which is a manager, dashboard manager, and you can see all your site in your New York, site in your India, site in a different countries. You can see all the devices. You can see your vManage controller, vBond controller, vSmart controller, vEdges, WAN routers, cEdges, everything you can see here. Along with that, you can see your LTE network, your MPLS connectivity network quality. I'm talking about quality, how much utilization is going on. You can see 4G, you can see internet, DMVPN, everything. Okay, you can also do some sorts of troubleshooting. If a OSPF is down, your manager will recommend you some steps. Do ping to this neighbor. You just only have to click on that ping button. Okay, and it will do the basic it will do the basic neighbor check. Let's say that's good. Now the second step will be prompted. It will say that now go and do the other checks, whether MTU check, or whether the neighbors are stuck on extract, exchange. So you will do some sorts of troubleshooting from the manager itself. That's why we call single pane of glass, or single uh, management plane, where you can do all the required tasks. Okay, you don't have to log in to any of the routers individually. You can do it all from the SD-WAN controller point. Okay, reduce network complexity, reduce cost of WAN circuits, ACE integration. Already discussed all this. Okay, for some reason my marker is stuck. Let me see. Okay, I think I have to close and I have to start this again. Okay. Okay, so network complexity, that is from your troubleshooting point of view. Cost of WAN circuit, as we said, as we discussed, we can go and prefer any WAN circuit. And ease of integration, the ZTP and PNP. Okay, so using that we can achieve, or I can say these are some of the advantage of SD-WAN from a layman's point of view. Okay, So how does this SD-WAN basically get or take the control and start doing what we ask SD-WAN to do? Okay, what they do is they start taking the control of these planes. If you know, a router will have three different planes: management plane, we have the control plane, and we have a data plane. These are the three planes of a router. Now SD-WAN, what it does is it will abstract the control. Now it will not let the routers to have management and the control plane. So what SD-WAN gonna do is it's gonna abstract the management plane within itself, within its control. It's gonna also abstract the control plane, okay, because it thinks I am more intelligent than a router. So it's gonna abstract the management and the control plane, keeping just data plane with the routers, because at the end router is one which will do the forwarding. If it abstract even data, who will do the forwarding work then? So router is meant only to do the data forwarding, but who is gonna take the decision of whom to forward, uh, in what circumstances not to forward on MPLS and forward to something else? Who is gonna take all this intelligent decision? It's taken by the SD-WAN controllers, okay, because you are now controlling everything. You will decide, router will just forward the traffic, that's all, okay, it will not do any further things here. So that's why I put this graph showing you the traditional router decision maker plans. So in case of a traditional routers, a router will consist of all the three plans. If a traffic comes in, it will see if it is a simple packet, the data management used to do the forwarding. It will see which is the egress traffic and push it out. But if a traffic is for routing protocol, which needs the lookup on routing table, data plane cannot do that. So it used to send it to the upside planes. It used to send to the control plane, and there is where your RIB sits, routing table. So your control plane is choked. Every time a new packet comes, the lookup is done on the control plane. Control plane will see whom to forward. It will send back the traffic to the forwarding plane, and the forwarding plane will send it out. So that used to be in the traditional case, okay. And management, you know, for SSH, for telnet, for other management purpose. So everything keeping on single router can also exhaust the processes. So that's why you will see the memory issues, the CPU spikes, right? So this is one more benefit of SD-WAN. Now your SD-WAN is gonna control the management and the control plane, keeping just the data plane with the routers, okay. That's how SD-WAN is gonna take the complete control and decide what to do. And we know SD-WAN is like a dashboard manager, so you can think it from like a simplified configuration point of view. That's what the benefit also say: reduce deployment time, single pane of glass management visibility, reduce network complexity or reduce troubleshooting issues, reduce the cost of WAN circuits, and easy to integration, okay. Yeah, this is what is happening. So when you abstract all the three different planes, this is your application plane, which is nothing but your SD-WAN dashboard, okay. You're gonna have a controller for the SD-WAN, let's say vManage, and then you have your routers who is doing the work of data forwarding. How do they communicate each other? We have the application programming interface, APIs, okay. So APIs is something which is gonna talk, because that's how application talks to a machine over on APIs. And to enable APIs, we have to enable the HTTP, because API is built on HTTP protocol, okay. And we have the different functions in HTTP. We have get, we have post, we have delete, we have put, patch, and every different operation of HTTP can have some code as well. If there is some issue with the HTTP in the client side or server side, they can go accordingly with error codes or response code. Okay, so 100 code, or I can write 1xx informational response code, 2xs or not 2xs, 200. That's okay thing. If it's all good, client and server is all good, we get 200 code. If it is a file moved kind of alert, then 3xs, 4xs for client issues, 5xs for the server issues. Okay, so these are all the topics from HTTP point of view, which we had covered in the network programmability of your CCNP and core topic already. So I just got that particular screenshot and pasted here as well in the SD-WAN. So the three aspects to SD-WAN: separation of all the three planes, management, control, data plane, centralizing control plane, management plane, making the control plane programmable. Okay, so you can also automate your controllers. So that is again a features or a plus point of using SD-WAN technology. You see this, I was talking about the three flavors of SDN for SDA Fabric, branch and campus. We have DNAC. For SD-WAN, we have vManage. For data center, we have data center in the sense ACI, we have APIC controller. Okay, but yes, there is a plan where Cisco DNA could be one such centralized controller for all the three software defined technology, but that's not been announced, but that's something which we can expect from simplicity point of view. Okay, benefits, once again benefits: flexible connectivity, yes, multiple transport channel, you can use any one of them depending upon your configuration. Application awareness routing, depending upon the software you can set what is the quality of the traffic you need for this application, and on that basis you can give it some priority. Okay, your application could be Outlook or LDAP application or some monitoring going happening in the backend, which needs very good stable traffic, right? So if there is a huge packet loss, then your monitoring tool will give you alerts saying that, giving you alerts, a false alerts that a device is down, but in fact device was not down. It's because of a packet loss or latency, your monitoring tool lost the connectivity. Okay, I'll tell you one example. In some enterprises, let's say this is my data center, they are gonna keep some monitoring tools here. Okay, and all the other campus, like campus 1, campus 2, they have to poll with this monitoring tool. Monitoring tool is not kept here in the local network, they are kept here, and if this connection goes down or fluctuate, monitoring tool will give a false symbol or a false alert saying that this is down, but in fact that is not down, it's down. The fault alert is because of your transport. If your transport is choked, you're gonna get alerts. That's why we say SD-WAN, and we are gonna set some features. I am gonna say I need my traffic to be less than so and so latency, less than so and so jitter, less than so and so load, and at least a bandwidth of 2 Mbps available for my monitoring traffic. You take MPLS, you take LTE, you take 4G, that is none of my business, but I need this kind of quality. That is what is SD-WAN's application aware routing. Okay, secure segmentation, that means you can be in some scenario. Let's say this is your enterprise. Okay, this is your VH router which is gonna talk to SD-WAN. there are some users whom you don't want to send their traffic to SD-WAN because you're paying as a service or you're paying as a package for your SD-WAN. For their Netflix traffic or for their a normal entertainment traffic, why should you send them to the SD-WAN? Is that important feature that they are using Netflix in an office hour and you're giving them a top priority of using SD-WAN's quality? No, you can give it local breakout. It's called as local internet breakout. So that's something which you can totally take it out from the SD-WAN traffic itself. You don't want SD-WAN to make it intelligence decision for this kind of traffic, which will automatically start billing for you in the backend. You can give a local breakout. Okay. Similar way, end-to-end segmentation. That means you can have your IPsec VPNs, IPsec tunnels, and you can have a different VPNs created. Okay. Secure cloud gateway, all your gateways that's connected directly to WAN, you can have the authentication parameter set here. You can have your certificates, you can have your ZTP communication for the cloud devices to have the security imposed. Service based traffic engineering is something when you buy SD-WAN as a service and you need some, for example, a firewall inside your SD-WAN. Let's say you want to have firewall as well. So yes, you can deploy a firewall in your SD-WAN. You can also set the policies. So that is also possible. So SD-WAN is not gonna uh, rule out whom to allow or whom it's not gonna block that feature where you cannot rule out whom to allow and whom not to allow. Yes, you can do that. You can add firewalls and you can decide whom to allow and whom not to allow. You can also go with the local internet breakout, but when you have more users, you cannot write policies for each one, right? So you will go with the implicit deny. Everyone ruled out to use SD-WAN, but if someone needs, he can take the permission and his permit rules will be allowed in the SD-WAN, or by default they will go with the local internet breakout. Cloud ready WAN, this is what I told. Nowadays SD-WAN is being sold from AWS and Azure cloud as well. So you have a ready WAN. I mean, you can just buy them if you don't have a engineers, the company can go with these vendors to buy the package. Okay. And single pane of glass operation, a single management dashboard which lets you to automate via REST API. Netconf is for SSH. This is SSH. Okay, SSH 22. REST is for your HTTP programming. Syslog, you can check the syslog. You can have the SNMP polling. You can do the flow export config. You can have the CLI as well. Okay, there is a option somewhere here where you can also do the ping and traceroute manually. It also has some option here, the graphical option where you can follow the on screen. And then there is something called as Linux shell also. If you are running some Python script or you wanna do some command manual checks, you can do. So everything from one single point of contact. You don't have to log into any end boxes. Everything from the single pane of glass operation. Uh, Regarding the three planes, I said data plane, of course, the routers, because they are the one who is gonna forward the traffic. And which planes are abstracted? Your management plane is abstracted and control plane is abstracted. Okay, so we call this as a orchestration, SD-WAN orchestration, complete orchestration, hierarchical orchestration, where management consists of these controllers. Okay, so I can write in this way: management has vManage and vAnalytics. Okay, vAnalytics is a optional service. If you want more analytics, you can buy this. By default you will not get it. You can see only vManage. But if you buy this vAnalytics, when you open up the dashboard of vManage, you will see on your left hand side a new service has been enabled. Okay, if you see this, this is a vManage controller. So here you will see a new tab for vAnalytics. That's a add-on topic or add-on service. If you want to have that, you can buy it. That's why I said vAnalytics is also a part of the management orchestration. Okay, so these two fall under management. What about control plane? So for control plane, we have vSmart, again a controller, lot many controllers. What is vBond? vBond is your orchestration plane. Okay, a plane which is used only for the first time, and then there is no need of this. Okay, so how many controllers now we are gonna check in SD-WAN? We have vManage along with vAnalytics, a add-on service for more troubleshooting, vBond, vSmart. Okay, this is your pure management plane. This is a orchestration plane, and finally the control plane. Okay, management, orchestration, control plane. So manage this management plane, vManage, is a centralized. Your day 1 to last day of your SD-WAN, your all devices, all types of troubleshooting, everything happens on vManage. Whereas your day 0, I can call it as vBond. So on the day 0, when you do the initial deployment, first time the routers will talk to vBond, first communication. And once vBond say that yes, these are the valid uh, routers, also vBond is gonna say whom do you talk next. So vBond is gonna give the information of vManage. Okay, so first router will get themselves authenticated from vBond. vBond is gonna check all the required things. It is gonna also reveal the information of vManage IP. Now routers will close the connection with vBond and form a new set of connection with vManage, because they now know who is vManage and where is it vManage located. Rest all the connection from day 1 to the last day is with vManage. That's why I said day 1 to last day of connection is with vManage. Day 0, the initial one connection will be made with the help of vBond. vSmart is your control plane. Okay, that is your vEdges to vEdges securities. Okay, more with respective to the data flow, because right now what is happening is routers are themselves getting authenticated. That is the first step, right? If routers are not getting authenticated, they will not start serving the data forwarding traffic. So routers are first getting authenticated with vBond and vManage. Once this is done, now the second thing what router has to done is they have to start forwarding the traffic, right? But they don't do that. They have to get themselves checked from the vSmart. vSmart is gonna do once again the check whether this router can start doing the data transfer or not. So if vSmart say yes he can, then the router is gonna do the data transfer. So this is like a deployment and the security concerns. It's not that you buy something, you build the setup and they do the forwarding. It's like a step by step and a proper security concern checklist to be followed. Okay, so same thing here. Overall planes, orchestration plane is your vBond, management plane is your vAnalytics with vManage. vAnalytics is just your add-on service. If you want, you can buy, but otherwise you can follow your vManage itself. Control plane is your vSmart. Data planes are all your routers. Okay, the routers which is used for only forwarding. Now which controller is virtual, which one is physical now? Okay, so vBond is purely virtual. You get some OVA file, you will deploy on your EXI and load it up. vManage, vAnalytics, once again virtual. There is no physical box requirement. You will get the OVA files, you will deploy it. What about vSmart? Once again a virtual thing. You will get a OVA file, you will deploy on your EXI server and you will build the controllers. Now these routers, they can be virtual or they can be physical as well. Okay, which is an example for virtual routers, your CSR 1000V. This is a best example which I can place under the virtual router. What about physical router? Physical router, whichever belongs to XC family or XR family. iOS I have not seen. XC and XR are one common examples, like your ISR, integrated service router 4K. You have ASR routers. Okay, I will tell few more names here. So these are from the Cisco platforms. What about from Viptela platforms? So Viptela also had their some devices, some physical boxes. Okay, so together they form the physical boxes. But yes, virtual is possible with CSR, which you can deploy it. Okay. Yes. Now, what is a Cisco SD WAN and what is a Cisco Viptela SD WAN? So both are basically the same thing. Initially, it was a Viptela company who had their SD-WAN service. Cisco thought buying this company would be beneficial for a long term. So Cisco in the year 2017 made a buy agreement. It bought this company and then it called as Cisco Viptela SD-WAN. Okay, and slowly Cisco started taking out the name Viptela from everywhere, because everyone does that. Why do Cisco wants to promote another company? So it started doing that. But thing is, Viptela were very good in their product, so it is like uh, still not very possible to remove every dependency of Viptela, because some customer already are authenticated with Viptela's ZTP process. Okay, so let me check one thing. Give me 1 second. Yes, I was just double checking. Okay, so as I said, ZTP and PNP, there are two ways of authentication. Why two? Because this is your Viptela server and PNP is your Cisco server. Now, customer who are already authenticated via this will have a outage if they get converted into Cisco, right? So there are more dependency to get this name out of the league, or to say only Cisco SD-WAN. Okay, that is one reason. And the second reason is the Viptela end devices, the Viptela routers, which we write as V routers, and for Cisco routers, we make use of the term C routers. So these routers are very good. Lot of customers need this. So what they started doing is they started labeling themselves here Cisco Viptela router. Okay, everywhere Cisco started adding their logos. And from each data point of view, as we discussed, management way, which consists of vManage is a single pane of glass, a web interface, centralized policies and templates. Okay, we'll talk about this. Though we don't have much about in our syllabus, but I'll tell this: troubleshooting, monitoring, upgrades, software upgrades, the GUI dashboard, and the automation. Everything is done from a vManage. Okay, what is your control plane doing then? The vSmart. vSmart is responsible for data forwarding checks. Okay, now I have one notes which I'll tell you in few minutes what happens in the SD-WAN deployment, who is being powered on first, what happens, and how this data forwarding happens. Okay, so in that case, in that notes you will understand this in much better way, but in a shortcut, in a short way, what control plane or vSmart does is they are responsible for data forwarding. So routers which have already authenticated from vBond first, then we with vManage, where vManage will push all the required templates, okay, the policies, everything, and then these routers will make a check with vSmart, okay, and vSmart will make sure if a router is a valid router or not, and the data forwarding will start. If it says no, the data forwarding will not be happening here. Okay, so the data forwarding is happening with the control plane's help. So that is why it says fabric discovery by means of OMP. OMP is nothing but the protocol which we use in SD-WAN. Okay, OMP, overlay management protocol. This is very similar to BGP. If you see, if you just see the behavior, both are very similar. So this BGP has three tables, right? The neighbor table, and what you had, the BGP tables and the routing tables, whereas in OMP we have four tables. That's some difference, like service chaining table, the T-lock tables, the routing tables. So there are like four tables, but this is a protocol which we use in SD-WAN, and BGP we use in the case of enterprise WANs networks, right? So that's something co-relevant here. And yes, who are the developer for OMP? They are nothing but they are the BGP developers. So whoever has found out, or whoever has made or introduced the SD-WAN SD-WAN protocol. So what Viptela did is, at the time of OMP R&D, research and development, they hired those engineers who are the original developer of the BGP protocol. That's why you will see the same behavior in OMP as well. Okay, so that is why I said OMP and BGP works in almost very similar concepts. Okay, final management final plane here was orchestration plane. Okay, so in the case of orchestration plane, your first point of authentication or whitelisting, that is why it's mentioned here, your routers, the data routers, they first themselves gets authenticated, and that's been taken care by vBond. Once they get authenticated, what happens is they drop that connection. There will be no more connection done by these routers. And finally, data plane are the routers. As I told, they can be physical or a virtual. Viptela routers or iOS XE routers or XR, like ASR boxes. Okay, the routers will have the OMP protocols. They will start forwarding the traffic, all sorts of traffic forwarding. What about vAnalytics, which is a part of management plane? But as I told you, you can or you cannot have this. Like, this is a add-on package, so you have to buy it to get that service. Okay, this is a bring up process. As I told you, on your day 0, when you buy something from Cisco's SD-WAN, what happens? So first, let's say you have deployed all your controllers on your EXI servers, vManage, you have vBond, you have vSmart, and let's say this is all virtualized. You also have your routers, physical routers, V routers or V edge or C edge. So point number one, you will first power on all the controllers. Okay. So point number one, you are controlling the vManage, you are power owning this vBond, you will power on the vSmart. Okay. Second important step after the power on step, let me write here power on of the controllers. Now what happens in the second step is they themselves gets authenticated. So vManage will talk to vBond and get themselves authenticated. Similar way, vManage will talk to vSmart and then vBond will talk to vSmart. Okay, so vManage will talk to vBond, get authenticated each other. vManage will talk to vSmart, will get authenticated to each other. vSmart and vBond will talk to each other and they authenticate themselves. So controller authentication or controller authenticate. And on which medium do they get authenticated? How is the packet being protected? With the DTLS tunnel, DTLS or TLS. DTLS is a UDP packet, UDP, and TLS is a TCP traffic. So by default we have UDP enabled. TLS depends, if a customer wants TLS he can use a TCP one. So once these controllers authenticate themselves, now what happens in the next step? Cisco vManage sends the configuration to the vSmart and the vBond, because in your initial day or your day 0, these are having a blank configurations. You have just powered on. Okay, you have powered on and you have done very basic configuration like interface, internet connectivity, but there is no much information. So it's your vManage who will push the configuration to vBond and vSmart. So what does vManage does? It's gonna push the configuration to vBond as well as to vSmart, so that they all have a unique database or unique information or a set of information. So they are prepared when a router starts talking to them, they themselves know what to do, not that they look for something and they don't have a, or they have a half knowledge. Okay, so till here was your controller part. Now the time to start your routers. As I told you, routers were shipped to the customer. At the time routers were shipped, the Cisco has taken care of the serial numbers. They have put the serial number into the ZTP and the PNP account, which is a smart account. We call it as a smart account these days, which you can yourself see in the software cisco.com website. Okay, so customer account will be created in the smart account. Information like site ID, organization name, the router serial number, they all will be recorded. This is very important and very case sensitive also. By default or by mistakenly you give a wrong site ID, so these guys will not come up. So that is something which you need to know, that these are very sensitive information. And the serial number is nothing but the routers or the device hardware serial number, the chassis number. Basically we call it as a chassis in terms of networking components, right? So the chassis numbers. So routers are started, router authenticate themselves with a vBond. vBond is your day 0, which is a part of orchestration plane. Okay, so what happens? vBond and routers are talking to each other and they talk in the IPsec tunnels. Oh, sorry, they talk in the DTLS tunnel still. So whenever the communication is with respective to controllers, they are always DTLS, not IPsec. IPsec comes when router and router talk to each other. Okay, so until and unless when router is talking to the controllers or controller to controllers, we always make use of DTLS communication. Okay, so vBond and router over DTLS, the first or day 0 communication. And then what happens? vBond is connected to the ZTP and all the backend checks happens. It say yes, this is a valid router, and it's gonna whitelist it, and it's also gonna tell the vmanage information, because until then router doesn't know who is my vmanage. Router only knows the vbond. So vbond is now gonna give the information of vmanage to the routers. Now what these routers does is they start talking to vmanage. Since vmanage, vbond, vsmart have already talking to each other, what vbond has done is vbond has done two sets of information pass. What vbond did was vbond sent the information to the router saying that this is your vmanage. At the same time, vbond has also pre-notified vmanage, you are expected to get a communication coming in from so and so router. So vmanage is already aware of that router. The vmanage is waiting for that communication for router to initialize. So the moment router sends to vmanage, vmanage is already aware of something coming in sooner. So vmanage is going to authenticate. Okay. So once vmanage authenticates, router is gonna talk to vsmart now, because router so far is like your dummy product. It's just gonna do the authentication part. It still has not started forwarding the data. So the last check is done by vsmart guy, the controller plane controller, right? The controller which is deployed in the controller plane. So once that's authenticated, once all the three steps are done, now vmanage decides to push the templates. That's why we say SD-WAN is very easy to deploy or easy to integrate, something which we had mentioned in the previous diagram, right? So what vmanage does is it has some templates within it, and it's gonna send those templates to the routers. Templates like OSP of configuration, OMP configuration, BGP configuration, uh, might be some VPN configuration, NAT configuration, NTP configuration. All the features are now in a template format. So the template is sent. Okay. So what Cisco Manage do is it will start sending templates to these routers. Okay. So vmanage sends configuration to the router. Before you start the bring up process, note the following: to provide highest level of security, only authenticated and authorized routers are allowed to participate in SD-WAN. So we know they're gonna do all the necessary authentication and authorization, and then finally they start forwarding. Okay. So Cisco vSmart controller performs the automatic authentication before a router can actually start sending the data. That's the main task of the router. Agree? We are deploying routers to start sending the traffic, the data forwarding, and to get into that level, router might have done lot many checks already, lot of authentication, lot of templates, all those things. Okay. So once routers are authenticated, data traffic flows regardless of whether routers are in private space or in public, because router is not gonna make any control decision. It's all abstracted at this moment. Router will only listen to these guys, the vmanage guy, and whatever we have done in the vmanage, it will follow that. Okay. These are some hardware devices for SD-WAN, the routers, because I told you the controllers are all virtual. You go to software.cisco.com website, you can download all the controllers. Okay. So vmanage is one such controller which will take more RAM. Okay. So each instance of vmanage will take like 8 GB, could be 2 vCPUs. So this is a high intensive resource intensive controller, whereas vbond and vsmart, since the work role is less, so they go with some other or a very less resource, but like 4 GB or 1 vCPU, something like this. Okay. So these are virtual, so we don't have any physical concepts here. But when I say the end routers, they come in two format, either virtual or physical box. Now what I have here is a Viptela's physical box. Viptela Viptela, and you can read the specification. Depending upon specification, you can make your decision of getting them. Okay, and these are again few more devices, high-end V-Edge products. These are the Cisco boxes. Okay, so as I told you, Cisco has their ISR box, ISR 4K, and ASR box, which are physical in nature, hardware to be purchased. And from the virtual point of view, you have the CSR router, the cloud routers. The CSR, I think it's a CSR 100 if I'm not wrong, or CSR, I think CSR 1 kV, yeah, 1 kV, CSR 1000. Okay, so that is from your hardware point of view. Some reference links to the Cisco SD-WAN design guide, and some system overview. Okay, so well, so that ends your SD-WAN topic. So let me know, did you guys understand anything or not? Or was I difficult in explaining the concept?
No, I understood the concept. There's a lot of material here, so I'm going to have to review it some more. But I like your notes; those
Okay,
are good.
all right, okay, yeah. So it's also a point for me to keep this topic at the end, because I myself wants to deliver SD-WAN. So shortly when I bring up the SD-WAN course, I want to be more confident with this. So that's why I prefer to keep this at the very end. I hope you guys liked it. A short overview, but there is lot in SD-WAN. As I told you, SD-WAN theory is a pure theory. But when you come to the lab, most of your labs would be over on the certificate installation, the deployment of the controllers, the deployment of the routers. You will see how this router gets authenticated itself with the controller, and to get that going, you need to take care of all this whitelisting process. Okay, once that's done, you will start seeing your vManage is gonna push the templates. Now, until or unless you have created the templates, your vmanage will not do that. So first you have to work on the template part. Once you've done that, then the vmanage will push it. You have some policies also, like policy in the case, this is my site 100, this is my mpls. If something goes below so and so uh, ratios, make use of a different network. So you're gonna set lot of policies. These policies are written on xml format. Okay, so that comes under policy when you're fine tuning the traffic, the quality of the traffic. Okay, so lab structure is very different. Everything you need to do, you will lose your track. So when we prepare for the lab, we will we'll try to make a simplified option so student don't struggle on all lot of things. Okay, so lab will be somewhere in this, and yes, we will be touching the other concepts as well, uh, like the AR, the direct internet breakout. Okay, whereas in the theory you will see topics like NAT, QoS. Everything cannot be replicated. So in the theory, NAT, QoS, tenants. What other topics? Yeah, other topics are like whatever we discussed, but in the dedicated class it will be more and more topics. Okay, it will be not overview, it will be more and more theoretical topics. All right, guys, so I would suggest take a break of 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then we will do the